Okay. Good to go. So this is during vacation then.
Yes, during vacation.
Yes.
So then I like to imagine like it started. Sorry, my ear's doing it again.
All right.
It started raining. And Hana, was on his hammock, was just like, ah, shit, fuck, 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 and made his way over to like one of the uh porches of the cabins.
Oh,
And then
um,
perhaps there was a Lorne there.
yeah, I think so. I don't know if Lorne and him were sharing a cabin, but we'll say that she's
It could
perched on the
be.
porch of this one.
Yeah, they could be sharing a cabin. Why not? Of course.
Yeah.
What would be the issue of it for a daughter?
It wouldn't be an issue.
Exactly, that's
I
what I'm
know
saying.
I was trying to hash out who would be with who just because like it was what was it? An average of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. So there's 18 people, so it'd be like math. 18 divided by 3. 6? 6 people per cabin.
Hmm.
And like some people can't be with other people.
You can say ramen, right? It's okay.
Well, and I don't think Ram can be with Mac unless a
Oh
security
yeah, true.
person's around. And Mac can't be with Lorne.
Also true. Well then, so he comes over and he sort of sat down.
I'm
And
going to
was
take the
Lauren, was she
liberty
there
and
to begin with, or did she come out?
we'll say she's been out and has been kind of watching the clouds roll. I'm gonna
Okay.
take the liberty and say that the this porch has like one of those porch swings
Okay.
that she's curled up on, doing the kind of grasshopper sit that she does.
He,
Although maybe one leg curled under her and the other long leg is like extended out, and she's just pushing herself using like the rail that's like further ahead of her,
mm-hmm.
and is slow, gently swinging herself while she watches the um, oh, what do you call it when while she watches the front
Approach.
yeah
The
roll
drizzle.
through. Hmm.
The drizzle.
Yeah. Well, it's like I envision it could be like one of those strong fronts where you see that wall of clouds coming
Mm-hmm.
and like the temperature drastically changes and then the rain comes down.
Okay, so rain hasn't hit yet.
It's coming. You can hear it.
Okay, then what probably happened is Han saw the clouds and was like, ah, and collected his things to move them into a non-wet area that would soon be part of the rain zone.
Mm.
So he's moved his things. He nods and gives a smile. Said, "Hello, Lauren."
Hello, Hannah. Would you like to sit with me and watch the
Yes, let me
clouds?
put these inside. And he motions to the rolled up hammock and his book. Said, then I'll be right with you.
All right.
And he goes inside and deposits his items wherever he's sleeping. Comes back. Says, "You're going to need to move your legs."
She moves a leg because the other one's outstretched.
He steps carefully over one leg, and then goes and he sits down.
I will rock us.
Very well. Doing a bit of weather watching, are we?
I am. Obviously, we don't see a lot of it.
Well, not yet. It should be here soon. Based upon the front, I think we're going to get quite a downpour.
I think so. I think I can count the number of times I've seen rainstorms on both my hands.
Really?
Yes,
In person or
in person.
via media as well?
In person.
Hmm. What time is this?
This is number 9.
One away from the lucky 10. He leans back. Well, let's hope it's a heavy one.
I hope so too. I wait.
I'm not foreign to rainstorms, but I do recall being mostly acquainted with fair weather. The planets we went to, it was more often to find one.
Does it rain?
But you don't
much?
see it much.
Does it rain much on your home?
No. They have long since developed techniques to make the weather ideal there.
Is rain not ideal?
It's ideal when you need to help the crops. But most agricultural facilities are indoor and via controlled lighting and water sources. They don't really need that, and well, when it comes to Halo, either you're on Halo Prime and you're on one of the many stations surrounding it.
I see.
No, it was always just warm enough. And if it rained, you knew well beforehand in the schedule. But I did get to see a couple of nice storms. I'll tell you what I haven't seen a lot of.
What?
Snow.
I think I could count how many times I've seen snow on one hand.
I can't quite count it. I've seen it more than 10, but it was really not common.
Cold.
I wouldn't miss it, though. Yes, very cold.
I think
If you
I
think
like
that
the rain more.
a warm rain. I think that's the best rain you can get. Comes in on a warm front. So it's not chilled. You can stand in it.
Brings
If it's
warm.
safe.
Brings warm puddles.
I should have known you'd be one to splash about.
Don't you remember the mud puddle from earlier?
I do remember the mud puddle.
I like puddles.
Smiles. There is an endearing quality to your simplicity, Lorne. He says Lauren.
Thank you. What
You're
were you
welcome.
reading about?
Oh, earlier? Just it's a book I got on some theories. Most of the researchers in it are absolute hacks. But just some recounts on shock space. Or shock syndrome, I suppose.
You are reading on shock?
I am.
Any reason?
Well, now that we know what we've seen there is real, it's an entire untapped horizon that science has not yet come to comprehend.
And you wish to know more?
I do. It's taken my interest. Actually, I've been working towards understanding infinitology. He nods towards her. More for the same reason.
She raises an eyebrow.
Blinks. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you. I meant to.
You did not tell me. What did you not tell me?
There's been an experience of mine that took place. And in short, coming out of it, I think I found the origin of infinitology.
She's still rocking, but
Mhm.
she leans her body a little bit more his direction. You have her attention fully.
Recall before when actually a moment. He leans over to like a nearby window and looks in the cavern, sees that no one's currently in it. Great. Recall before when we were in shock space and we went to that lower level, right? Where everything was rock and unnatural.
Oh, with the strange space.
Yes. It's a graveyard, is what I learned it is, for misplaced spirits.
Yes?
And we all came across that being that made everyone fall asleep. Right?
Yes.
Well, that isn't the experience I had. I didn't fall asleep.
You did not?
I did not. You all disappeared and I was left there.
I'm going to empathy you. Get ready for the empathy slam.
Oh my god. Oh god, okay. What are
Hi.
you looking for?
How you feel about when you said that? Like, she was
Okay.
fishing for how he felt when everyone disappeared and he was still there.
You get a strong sense of he's resolute, he's calm. Um it's clear that this does not it doesn't trouble him as much. Like there's a small sense of still I think Lauren could probably get in like his tone of like that happened. Like fuck. But I think with your critical success you can tell the way he's talking about this is like the way someone talks about an event that though extremely pressing happened a good while ago. They've had time to process it.
Okay.
And he says, and there was no way to get back. Not the same way you did. So I had to find my own way. I have sketches, many of them, back on the ship. I'll need to show you, including what I've dubbed it to be the Sphinx, the creature that we all came across there. Quite a good company, actually. It provided me with a lot of information.
I would
That
not
where
have
we
guessed.
were. Yes. Where we were was a limbo of sorts. And when Rai described shock space as an ocean, I would disagree. It's more of a sphere, as I learned. Where he makes a motion with his hands to like resemble a sphere, and then he cups one and kind of circles around to make layers with his finger. Where there's an outer layer, and then there's more as you go in, like a planet, like skin. There's an epidermis, then there's a dermis, then there's more, and each part gets further in, deeper, towards a core. Okay?
Could it be both? A sphere and an ocean, or more like a sea?
If you'd like it to be. I personally find the analogy of it being an ocean to be extremely misleading. It implies down leads down always.
Well, clearly,
And
the laws of gravity do not apply to such a place.
physics don't apply in shock at
And
all.
so giving it layers doesn't quite count either.
Layers does quite count. Because there are layers, they're separated. It's like a tissue, you see. Everything has a very specific purpose, a very specific thing you will find there, categorized, almost loosely. And so the layers represent that tissue, that specific thing that resides there. The layer we found ourselves on was the graveyard. It's a place where, when you fall from the most superficial layer into the secondary, or whatever number it actually was, you haven't gone deeper yet, but you're deep enough that you are in shock space, if that makes sense.
I think so.
It's a catch, it's a net. So it does have a purpose. And by saying an ocean, it implies there's a bottom that you cannot go past. Whereas I think if you go deep enough into shock space, you can keep going deeper until you're on the other side, till you're back to that superficial layer. It's possible.
So it's more like a planet.
Yes, I think it is. Its own planet, parallel with ours, that doesn't follow any of the same rules.
All right.
Ram thinks that some of it even parallels locations within our universe.
Okay.
So, you recall the pools, right?
I do. We were told not to walk in them.
They can lead anywhere within the sphere, within any layer. They can go. It doesn't matter if it's superficial, deep, up, down, sideways, diagonal. It's a toss-up where it leads you. It doesn't just go down. It can go, as I said, anywhere. Unless it's anchored. I learned this from the Sphinx. It said it was my only way, these pools were my only chance at getting back.
But with risk.
But with risk. Great risk. The reward being I find my way back. The risk being I could lose myself completely trying to get there. I think both physically and mentally. But I wasn't about to spend the rest of my time in limbo, so I did it. There was a point, an obsidian thing sticking out of one of the pools that anchored it somewhere. And so I took that and I climbed down it, and it went down impossibly long amounts of time in warped sense. As I said, physics don't matter in shock. And where I found myself was a cave, and the pool was on the ceiling. And I had been climbing down this spire, this rotating, spiraling thing. that was pure black and sharp. Sharp enough that I'm sure, had I not been wearing my cog, I would have been cut to ribbons.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the bottom, and I saw that this thing was marked with ruins.
Runes or ruins?
Runes.
What kind?
He reaches over and will pick up, like he'll pull out a notepad from his pocket and flip it open. He'll just write out a few runes, underline them.
Show them?
Mm-hmm. Show them.
Hey, Chance. Are you there?
Yep, say your question again.
Do I recognize the runes that Hana is showing me?
I'm writing out the infinitology ones. Some of them.
So,
Would you like me to do a check?
yes, actually. So if you could, roll me a brains xenoarchaeology.
I have that.
Or void lore, whenever you ever.
Hey, Void Lord, much better. Let's do that. Let me double check this. I might get a +1 for it. +1 to all Void Lore rolls. Hee-hoo. But chow. 2 success.
With 2 successes, some of the symbols look familiar. They're definitely not a part of the core books, like they're still part of a language, but it's stuff that you yourself didn't have to learn. It's stuff that you were, given the option to learn.
Okay, she'll point out the one she recognizes.
Ah, so you do recognize a few.
And I presume that because they were mentioned in the books as well, that she knows what they stand for.
Yep.
So she'll say what those mean, the ones she recognizes.
You know a few of your letters.
Of course I do. I do admit I'm not as learned as I probably should be.
Well,
I am
it's
much
all right.
better with the whole word of mouth thing.
I'm learning the language right now. He taps the runes again. Slowly but surely.
Because I have it in the relationship chart that she knows that he's learning it, so it could have been trickle down of she heard that he was learning, right?
That works.
Because that was a while that he's been learning on it, right? Ever since he came out of there?
Yes.
Pretty much. I have heard that you are, and I am actually interested in learning secondhand from you.
I'd be happy to do so once I understand it. And there's no unforeseen effects.
Effects?
Well, you see, in this cavern I found myself in, this cave, there was this spire with its ruins. Then there were several mummified bodies facing it, and a glowing, watery, almost prismatic sun on the ceiling that shone light down. I tried to take a sample of the tower, the spire, and in doing so it lit up. And I felt it reach to me. Like it wanted something. Like it knew me, but knew that I didn't have what it needed. And when it lit up, the sun on the ceiling went away. It dissolved. At first I was very wary of this spire. But I think it represents infinitology as a whole. what it actually is. I've checked the ruins. They are correct.
What has led you to this belief?
Infinitology talks about a unified existence, right? A great stream. What if this great stream is tied directly to shock space?
I have had a thought similar. Perhaps not directly, but a crossing, so to speak.
It wasn't the only thing I came across. I came across other towers in this place. Ones that were near identical, but the only difference you could tell is that the glow of one is a lighter shade of red than the other, and the ruins are ever so slightly different.
What mean you?
They look identical at a first glance. Anyone who isn't well versed in it would surely think they are, but if you recall the writing in the Iris ship, the captain's deck,
I do recall.
I've come to dub these towers as corruptors.
Pause. Chance, just to make sure that her recollection is correct. This is the bridge that we found where all the walls were blacked out and written on the walls were the runes that hurt Lorne's head, right?
Yep. Some of the runes hurt Lorne's head, others were infinitology symbols that you've seen before,
Okay.
but most of them hurt your head.
Okay. Yes, I do recall these runes. Some of them were familiar to me, but the other ones hurt.
The other ones were this other. At first glance, they look identical to infinitology symbols, but they're not. And they have an effect, almost a mimetic, almost, where it affects the everyday human, influences them, changes them, not for the better.
This script, you would say it would be a corrupting script then?
Yes,
Is there a way
I believe
to make
so.
it uncorrupting? If it is similar.
I think that's what he taps the ruins he wrote out again. I think that's what this one's doing. You see, I found another sun in the sky when I exited that cave. Surrounding me were, as far as you could see, spires of different spirals and shapes. But all of them were activated. And the thing about it is that the corruptor seemed to make this sun stronger the more that were lit up. And the infinitology ones, the more around, the weaker this sun was. Now, the sun, I have come to believe, is an entity of its own, a great shock space entity. And it corrupts. And I think that those spires, those obelisks, are artifacts of it. I believe the infinitology is strictly against this entity. Whether it belongs to another entity within shock space is possible. I've discussed it with Rai. She has theories concerning that and has her own concerns with it that I'm not sure if I share yet.
Taking what Hana is telling her, is there anything I can cross-reference what he's saying with anything she's had from her books?
Nope. Your books don't talk about any of this.
Okay.
Yeah, he says, whatever it is, these two things seem to be at war with each other. I came to the realization that a lot of infinitology texts have the other symbols of the corruptor hidden within it.
Even our normal Bible?
I haven't looked.
I
Do you have a
not.
copy? Here, let me take a look.
And she'll stand up and she will fetch it.
You'll take it?
She
Chance,
brings
may
it
I roll
out,
to...
and it is a well-loved, very worn
Hmm?
book.
Holds out his hand and takes it, and he'll start paging through. Chance, may I roll to try and find any naughty boys hidden in there?
You don't need a roll. You can look through it, and you will find plenty of naughty boys in it.
Alright, he says, and he stops and he's like, you don't mind if I highlight your Bible, do you?
Go ahead.
He nods, and he'll start. Every time he comes across one, highlight. Move on to the next one, highlight. Move on, highlight. And he'll just keep going page by page.
She will watch him.
How many pages? Like, how long? I imagine this takes a little bit.
Oh
How
yeah.
many pages do we get?
Not full pages, but you reckon maybe 10%?
Okay. So that's probably a good hour of our time.
Oh yeah.
And once he's done, he caps the highlighter. And he says, he does a quick page through, like just runs his thumb to let all the pages go, you know, the way that one does.
Mm-hmm.
And just lets the yellow flow from page to page so that she can see it.
She observes the highlighted text.
These symbols have effects on people. So I believe hiding it within a common book is, well, quite the recruitment technique.
Now, I shall empathy again on you, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
A 3.
He is serious. He is... He isn't teeming with excitement the way he would usually when he makes a discovery when it comes to like a gun or something like that. Either if that's because he has had time to come on this or if it's because he is grim on the subject. But a large part of it is, I think you can tell it's very important to him that you understand what he's telling you. And that he cares a lot for Lorne's safety.
Safety. Taking a look through the highlighted portions, those symbols that he highlighted, do they mean anything in particular that in relation to what's in her book?
Yeah. They are other, common symbols of the faith.
She will recite their meaning, or at least what she has been told from her book and her faith.
You can do so.
He shakes his head. Do I know the going that I'm slowly learning, and I'm going to be dedicating downtimes that will have taken place during this vacation as well. May I roll to identify the correct symbols for those words?
Yeah. Make your It's technically a brains xenoarchaeology or brains void lore. Do you have any of those yet?
I have xenoarchaeology.
Okay, then you are able to make the roll.
Two successes.
Alrighty. You are Gucci.
Yeah, when she says one, he recites it and then he'll write on his notepad the correct symbol.
Seeing that he has a translation, or basically like a writing of the wrong, she'll go through the symbols.
There are probably some he can't quite get because he's not 100% on the language yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the ones that he does know, he will correct. He says, I'm still working on it. It's a complicated language.
Comparing the corrected to the prior, like, is it that the symbols are just really similar and there's just something a little, like, slightly different about it?
Yes and no. Some of them, the symbols are completely different. Others, the symbols are, like, basically the same. So it very much is case-by-case basis. To Hana, it looks a lot more like it was purposely done. To you, Lorne, looks just like, oh, someone made it oopsie.
A flub of the quill, basically.
Yeah.
Do I find going through it and highlighting them, do I ever find the one that is construct from the corrupted language, the one that I had taken note for before?
As you search through all of them, you will not find it in Lorne's copy. And the reason for that is because Lorne's copy is one of the lower tiered.
Ah, I see. Okay. Oh,
Like
that's so concerning that you say that. Oh no, we
like,
we target the high religious people.
Lorne, she is still, a high-ranking member, but she is a, fully trained arbiter. It's just that she just doesn't have that book yet. After a little bit, she will get access to it.
Yep.
Once you level up your arbiter class,
right?
It's more like once you get more ranks in void lore, and once you get another rank in sway.
Right. It's probably sway because her void lore is 3. She just hasn't really pursued. As you may have noticed, she is more of the spiritual side than the reciting completely. Like, she has her beloved copy, but this thing is old and ratty, and it's probably the same copy that she's had since she was first, like, told about the faith.
Lorne mostly cares about the morals of infinitology.
So she probably has, like, a more crisp and clean version that was given to her when she officially leveled up to arbiter status, but this is her copy. This is hers.
And Hana says, they're intentional, I think. And there's a symbol. And he writes it out quick before let's Lorne get a little bit of a look at it, then he scribbles it out, which is the bad, naughty symbol.
Do I have to make a roll if I peek it?
Yep, you're gonna need to make a cold roll.
Okay, time for my cold roll.
-2.
Okay. I made it.
E.
He shows you it, then scribbles it out. He says, that was on the iris. Can be found in other places too. It means to construct more of these pyres.
When, with the cold roll, like, what did I feel like when I saw it?
Just like a little bit of a headache. A little bit like, like a migraine, like right at, top of your, your head, as if like you're processing too much information.
Are you alright?
Kind of hurt.
Interesting. These symbols don't hurt me, so I've never had that experience.
That was good then.
It might not be.
Oh. Oh. Empathy, that.
Exactly what he said. There's warning. There's something he hasn't told you.
Why do you think that?
When I was out there, and I was out there for a very long time, Lauren. Time doesn't make sense in shock space. It can be short, it can be long. But my suit said 2 months.
2 months?
Yes.
I presume with time being strange out there, then that would mean your need for sustenance would be the same then.
Not really. I didn't eat or drink once.
A dream but not.
What did she say?
A dream but not.
Almost too real, unfortunately. I felt everything. I was unconscious several times. The tired was real. They say you can't sleep in dreams. But anyway, I digress.
You may not sleep in dreams, but you may fall asleep in dreams.
This was no dream. I promise you that.
She nods. She does believe you. Or you get that impression from her.
Mm-hmm. The only... Before I'd left, I touched something I shouldn't have. Well, for the second time.
What was the first?
I probably shouldn't have touched the spire. I didn't know what it did. I still don't believe it was trying to harm me, but we shouldn't mess with things we don't understand.
Mimetic.
Right. I'm fortunate that I touched that tower and not another one. I don't think it would have went well for me if I touched a corruptor. But I did touch something that I think was touched by one. There were bones, corpses. From NGR, actually. Further reason to never trust them. And their skeleton, part of it was the same black as these spires. But almost harder, stronger. Tried to chip away at it, and I had a piece of a bale blade, and it was stronger than that. I touched it. He just gives a thin smile, the kind of smile that you give after you know you've made an irreversible mistake. And, well, I didn't know that I'd made him what I'd done until later. When I was wandering, trying to find a way out, I found no success. The only way I got out was because something found me. An entity called the Seeker.
Not the Sphinx.
Not the Sphinx. The Sphinx, I should pretend, didn't have a name. I just called it the Sphinx because it just seems to fit, and it's easier to refer to these things when they have names. But most things in shock space don't. When they have a name is when you know they are powerful. The Seeker had a name. He's impossibly long, snake-esque thing, if you know what a coatl is from ancient Terran history. Sort of.
What
but
kind of roll
not.
do I make for old religion lore?
That is a brain. I don't think we have academics yet because that's in the new system.
Yeah, there's no academics here. There is,
Yeah. So,
if you want to
art.
count xenoarchaeology on that.
Yeah, xenoarchaeology. So, brain xenoarchaeology, I think, would be the best one. Or alternatively, know-how if you have history in that.
Not for history. Mine is... What is mine? Common sense.
Nice.
I got a 1 for
All right. So,
xenoarchaeology.
the name kind of sounds familiar. Like there's a couple really weird names, be old faiths of old Terra,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not. But it doesn't exactly ring too many bells. You're just like that was a name.
He'll describe what it looked like.
Oh, all right.
And
I could see that name working with that. A fun name.
it expressed that I was at the core,
Hence
which
your,
I believe, by Rise standards, is the deepmost layer.
hence your belief why this would be a sphere of some
A
kind.
sphere. I discussed this with it. It seemed to agree. It's a seeker of knowledge. That's its purpose. And it doesn't like people being that deep in shock. Said that we can cause a large ripple. Something being where it doesn't belong. I don't imagine it's much different than when we have a shock entity on ship. Like, what happened to me? Maybe.
Or just shock things in general. When two things collide when they should not.
A very thin wall that is non-polar.
I'm going to
Tries to push
MP
it out.
Hana on this. Just a 1. With our discussion of shock and such.
He's not resisting, so I'll give you he's hooked. He's deeply fascinated and interested. And given you only got 1, I'll give you he has emotions behind this. There's investment, but also a deep, like, acceptance in a not good way.
Okay. When you are done with what you have to tell me, I think I have something to tell you.
Very well. I asked many questions of the Seeker. He brought me back to the Rossi. You actually came across us. That's how I woke up with everyone. But I realized when he blocked me from that sun that it was almost like a feeling of addiction, of need. I was upset. And I realized that that light had been doing something to me. He told me I'd been corrupted, and that I was very lucky to still be me by the time he found me, and not, I suppose, a slave to it, obsessed, like some of the others seem to have become. Their writings became ramblings, only focus on it. They said that it wants out. The sun.
Out of shock.
Out of shock. Which I believe, if the infinitology spires, and anything to do with infinitology, if that's trying to fight that, I'm a little more coerced to listen. But I brought up a fair point. We don't know what created infinitology. We don't know its goals. She believes it's a war that's been fought between these entities for millennia, generations, and that humans are just caught in the middle. And that the power of who is most successful varies. We're just pawns to it. I don't know if I believe it yet, but it is a plausible theory. At the very least, I believe that this corruptor uses mortals for its bidding, for growing, possibly to get more influence, possibly to erect these spires, even.
In infinitology, there is a thought that there are entities they're referred to as higher beings. Depending on who you speak to, the belief of these higher beings can vary from other people to something much more and greater than us. Perhaps that is the only allusion to such within our books, our scripts, at least that I am aware of.
You know, I want to learn more about it. About infinitology as it really is. But I can't look back into it. You see, when I said I was corrupted, it's true. That entity got to me. And while the physical changes didn't remain, thanks to the nature of shock space and the Seeker, it's still attached to my spirit, if you will. And if I go into shock space, there's a chance it'll spread, like it did to those of the bones. I hadn't realized it crawled up my entire arm. It can spread from me to others if I'm in shock space, and I can't put that kind of risk on any of the crew or myself.
There's a look of concern on her face, but she says nothing.
I wanted to talk to you about this because I thought, given your apical nature with shock, as well as your understanding of infinitology, perhaps, if you'd be willing, you could look into it for me.
A small smile creeps on her face now. It's an ironic one.
Ironic?
Mm-hmm. It is interesting that you say this.
Oh.
I am going to now regale you as to my own experience. If you may recall, a while ago, back when I first joined, nearly, I had attempted my own
Yes.
experience, as it were. And I did have one that I believe I have for the most part kept to myself. Especially from you, I think.
He nods. Tell me.
Especially considering what you have confessed to me not so long ago.
My experience.
Are you still afraid of those that move in the dark?
I believe they are real.
All right. I lied to you when I said that I did not think they were real.
A thin smile grows on his face. Not angry, just, oh, you little shit.
You were stressed. I did not want to further stress you. Or to further subject you to stress.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Usually.
She bows her head. Or like a nod, kind of. In my experience, I believe that I encountered the previous captain and crew of the Rossi. And I witnessed previous encounters of others aboard this ship. Or the ship. We're not on the ship right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to him, the last captain, before our captain.
What did he say?
He said, "Do not pity the dead, for they are dead. Pity the living, because we are still alive." I feel he was speaking from his own fears. But that is not all that he had relayed to me. After I spoke to him with my own belief, he had asked me to not pursue this course of action, to not look into things pertaining to shock. So I have not.
I think his advice was sound. Humans aren't meant to see shock. There are things that just seeing it makes your mind bubble.
There are things that even the dead fear.
You know, when I was talking with the Sphinx, he said that he didn't even know where the dead went. That they weren't lost here on the layer we were on. They went somewhere else, somewhere deeper.
I have
And
my
they could be anywhere.
Yes, I have my own beliefs on this accord.
What are they?
I think the end destination is in the great stream. But I do think that perhaps some souls may get lost along the way. Or perhaps they do not make it at all, if there are these things that exist in between that may catch them before they make it. But I do think, for the most part, the great stream takes us all. But to the ones that may not make their way there immediately, I could see there being a reason to be afraid. Before I left them to go to sleep, I know that he was afraid. Less afraid, yes, because I had spoken to him.
But afraid of what was to come.
But afraid of what was to come.
Perhaps. Or afraid of something else. It is a question that I have had on my mind for all these years. But I have not pursued it. Because I made a promise. It is a promise I know that many would not believe, but is one I still hold to. And will continue to do so. I did make another promise, funnily enough, along a similar chord, much more recently.
Who?
Mindy.
Fox's head? What did you promise, Mindy?
That I would not pursue the connections of these things.
And without saying anything, Hana is extremely proud of Mindy.
So, I have made this promise twice full now.
And I cannot ask you to break that.
Thank you.
He nods.
Should I find myself in a situation that I cannot avoid such circumstances, we shall see. But I will not willingly be throwing myself into such circumstances to begin with.
Understandable. It's safer that way for you.
As I am coming to understand.
Humans don't belong in shock.
There are a great many things that I don't think we need to know.
Oh. More than you know.
My point.
Ignorance is bliss, but it's also a blessing.
Although, we do know that naivete can only go so far.
Yes, well. We've seen time and time again, and this is a lesson I'm trying very hard to impart onto Mindy. Naivety. The lack of ever knowing allows you to avoid the punishment that is knowledge. The things you should have never known, but you do. Knowledge can make someone, even the weakest of fighters, extremely dangerous.
This is true. It has been proven time and again.
There are many, many people out there in the universe that want things forgotten. They will do what it takes to assure that happens. The iris is a primary example of this. So, it's good that you choose not to know. I think the fact that you know just a little bit still is a danger to you.
Perhaps.
But at the very least, with what we've discussed today, you know what. He, once again, taps the cover of her scripture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what to avoid.
At least I will know that the headache will let me know.
They don't always give a headache. I'm sure you've read that cover to cover plenty of times.
I have.
And you've never noticed until I pointed it out.
True. But for the most part, a great amount of my faith comes in the actions of what I do. What we all do. It is one thing to read the scriptures. It is another thing to practice.
That's what makes you a good arbiter.
Thank you.
He nods. I'd thought about converting, actually.
This is week 1 or week 2?
Week 1, probably.
Week 1.
Like late week 1 maybe? Mid
Okay.
week 1.
As you know, Ram already has.
I know. We talked about it before.
And I am working on something.
Something?
Yes.
What sort of something?
A ceremony of sorts.
Hmm.
I know we did ours aboard the ship already. I want him to experience what the faith has to offer in a grander scale. I hope
I think he'll
likes
like
it.
that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That was the same thing. She says, I hope he likes it.
So I like to imagine they say it at the same time.
Yep. And she scrunches her nose, but it's like the little smile thing she does.
Aw. Would you look at that? He looks out, and I imagine around this time it actually starts to rain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's probably been raining.
Okay, I'm cool for it.
Because they've been talking for a while. So during the time, she's got her foot
At a
still up.
dramatic moment, it
Yes.
started raining.
Right, yeah. During the time, she's still using her one leg foot to swing them both. And that's up on a rail or something because she's got long ass legs.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she's gotten plenty of water, pitter patter on her toes, and she's enjoying it very much. She does switch legs though, so she can get wet water on her other foot.
He watches her for a bit with a smile. I think he will. Should I choose to, I'll let you know. I want a bit more information before I make a choice.
Of course. To be informed is, well,
Well, it's just good science.
it's good judgment.
And he gets up. And I imagine he's probably a light jacket. And shrugs it off. Well then.
Well then.
There's no lightning, just rain, so.
Offers a hand. Care for a walk?
All right. She stands and sets all of the stuff that she does not want to get wet aside. She might go and put her book back to a safe place.
Yeah.
And she'll come back out. I am ready to jump in all the puddles. I hope you are ready to get very wet.
I've accepted my fate at this juncture.
Very good.
Got
Tell me about how your vacation has gone,
I shall.
and we can probably cut it there.
Yeah. Arm in arm or hand in hand. It's a little awkward.
Hand in hand,
but
let's
they
go.
Figure it out.